So back in 1599, everyone knew that the sun and planets and stars were just lights in the sky that revolved around the earth, and that we were the center of a little universe, a universe made just for us. It was an undisputed fact of the time. Everybody knew that. There was only one man on the whole planet who disagreed. He claimed that there was an infinite grander cosmos, where was this man on New Year's Eve, the year 1600? Why? He was in prison, of course. There comes a time in our lives when we first realize that we're not the center of the universe, that we belong to something much greater than ourselves. It's part of what we call growing up. And as it happens to each of us, so it began to happen to civilization in the 16th century. Imagine a world before telescopes, when the universe was not only what you could see with the naked eye. It was, of course, obvious that the Earth was motionless and that everything in the heavens, the sun, the moon, the stars, and planets revolved around us. And then a Polish astronomer and priest named Copernicus made a radical proposal. Copernicus proclaimed that the Earth was not the center. It was just one of the planets, and like them, it revolved around the sun. Many, like the Protestant reformer Martin Luther, took this idea as scandalous, as an affront to Scripture. And everybody was horrified. But for one man, Copernicus didn't go far enough. His name was Giordano Bruno, and he was a natural-born rebel. He longed to bust out of that cramped little universe, the one by limited thinking. Even as a young Dominican monk in Naples, he was a misfit. This was a time when there was no freedom of thought in Italy. But Bruno hungered to know everything about God's creation. He dared to read the books banned by the church, and that was his undoing. Bruno was called mad and ignorant, a heretic, an infidel. Everybody knows that there's only one world, they'd yell. Bruno lived at a time when there was no such thing as separation of church and state, or the notion that freedom of speech was a sacred right of every individual. And the Roman Catholic Church maintained a system of courts known as the Inquisition, and its sole purpose was to investigate and torment anyone who dared voice views that were different from theirs. It wasn't long before Bruno fell into the clutches of the thought police. Finally, the cardinals of the Inquisition rendered their verdict. They found him guilty of heresy. With his tongue imprisoned because of his wicked words, quote unquote, on Ash Wednesday in Rome in 1600, he was hung upside down, naked, and then burned at the stake. 10 years after Bruno's death, Galileo first looked through a telescope, realizing that Bruno had been right all along. So what's the lesson here? I think there's a couple of things. One, don't believe all that's told to you as fact. People have been imprinted and conditioned with a whole line of odd and false beliefs. Think for yourself. Don't just swallow the pill that's handed to you. There are a lot of people invested in your just lining up and complying with their doctrine. This is true of politics, media, commercialism, and yes, religious and spiritual beliefs as well. I just encourage you to think for yourself. Don't vote party lines. Don't believe all that you're told on the news or even by your doctor. Don't be a puppet of advertising or social pressures, and make sure your beliefs are really your own. And I mean really, not just because that is all you know and continue to defend blindly. Use the greatest gift that you've been given, the one thing that makes you uniquely human, and that is reason. Second, and this might seem like an odd takeaway, but be careful who you share your beliefs with. You need to be free to use your own reason and rational mind to come to your own conclusions, but you don't have to be righteous about it. Live in accordance to your own beliefs, but trying to convert everyone over to your way of thinking is an affront to the very liberty that you're trying to defend. Control the only thing you can control, and that is you and your decisions. There is no need to get yourself hung upside down, naked, and burned at the stake. In the end, that just doesn't seem so wise after all.